What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Nicholas Moreano, Herb Howard with you to talk some Bears football questions that you submitted. So we're really looking forward to doing that, and also some other Bears topics. Herb, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, brother. How you feeling, man? Happy that it's Friday. Happy that we get to talk some Bears. As always, it's an exciting time, even for the Bears, like especially in the offseason. I would love to have some exciting times, and I don't know, October, November, December, that'd be cool. But certainly we have exciting times for the Bears in February, March.
It seems that that's always the story with the Bears. They're winning the offseason. You're very hopeful for everybody they brought in, the new coaching
Yeah,
staff. They do that quite often, bringing in new coaching staffs. But
it happens.
yeah,
It happens.
it would be nice if you're talking about this excitement. Yeah, December, January,
Yeah,
where it
yeah,
really matters. But I completely agree with you. The last time we spoke, though, Herb, I know that you were going through like a juice, some a different type of diet. Like, how has that
yeah,
been
man.
going? Because that's difficult, man. It takes discipline to do that kind of stuff.
No, it's definitely challenging, man. I just gotten too fat and letting myself go, man. So I just gotta cut some pounds down. I want to get my skin cleared up and get better quality sleep, more energy, just some real stuff. So, but
Yeah.
it's been going cool, man. I did kick it off with just doing some water and some juicing, and now I'm just eating what a friend of mine, a plant-based African named Sadiq, um, defines as food, and not like food
Okay.
as we know food to be, but food as he defines it biologically in terms of what your body actually recognizes it as food. And so that's the only things I've been eating. I've been eating cabbage and greens and carrots and brown rice, that kind of stuff, man. Fruits. It's been going cool though. It hasn't been super terrible, man. So it's been going cool, and we'll stick to it for a while. And my birthday is in like 2 months, and I've got like a ambitious goal to drop 60
Mm.
pounds by then.
Hell
So
yeah.
I think we can do it, man. We've gotten a little bit ridiculous over here in terms of some of the LBs, and we're gonna get our life together. That's all.
That's awesome, Herb. I love hearing that too. And you know what? In this profession, I think you can lose sight of just your physical makeup, like how you're doing, because
Yep.
we're at screens all day. We're sitting down. There's a bunch of different things that takes us
Yep.
away from being physically active every single day. So,
Not you
uh,
though.
you
I
know,
mean, you handle business every day. You know what I mean? Like, you
I
you take
try, Herb. And you know what? It
and you
starts my day
motivate
off
me for real.
right. I appreciate that if I could do that for you or anybody else, but it does start the day off right if it just 30 minutes of physical activity, regardless of what it is, just to kind of get the body right so that you go into doing whatever you have ready in the later in the day, like if it's typing all day, being at a podcast, whatever it may
Yep.
be,
Yep.
at least you know that you did that, but you're taking the steps right now and I'm rooting for you. And like, I mean, again, I that's the thing I could never do is like stick to like a diet, and especially like that where I feel like
Yeah.
I would just be snacking all freaking day.
Yeah. It's for the full month of February. So we'll get through the 4 weeks, and see how we feel, see how it's going, and we're going from there, man. I'm not super like a fad like diet type of person, so we'll
Mhm.
see, man. And then hopefully it just becomes a little bit natural part of my life. Not that I won't ever have my pizzas or my burgers or whatever, because I'm sure sometimes I will, but just not as much as I
Mhm.
have over the past couple years, where I've just been steady seeing all of my older clothes fit tighter and tighter.
I get you, man. I get you. But it takes discipline. And you know what? I actually kind of want to now get into someone I think who also brings discipline to the Bears team. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about this guy, but Eric Bieniemy, being
Yeah,
the
man.
running backs coach now. And I think that was a huge hire. I've been on a couple of shows earlier in the week, kind of talking about my thoughts on what he brings to his team and, what he can do for that running back room. But just your overall thoughts on bringing a guy like that was obviously an established person, being an OC at UCLA and then being a part of two Super Bowl teams with the Chiefs as an offensive coordinator. What are your thoughts on him being now the running backs coach for the Bears?
I think that's a great hire, man. I really do. I think that his track record kind of speaks for itself. Like you said, coming from UCLA, having spent the time with Andy Reid and the Chiefs, and as an offensive coordinator, but also just going back to his time as running backs coach with Minnesota, with when Adrian Peterson was running for 300 yards on dudes. Like, he's been a no nonsense guy. He sets the standard pretty high, and he expects his players to maintain it. And if they don't, they're going to hear about it from him. And so I think that he's a great hire to have as the running backs coach. And I know some people have talked about, him being good hire because he could be the OC or whatever. Like, I don't like. Let's just leave it where it is. He's the running backs coach, and he's a damn good one. And so I think that's a really, really good hire. A lot of conversation last year about accountability from the coaching staff and keeping guys accountable and maintaining the standard. He's going to do that every single day. And so DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, Ashton Jeanty, for some of y'all people, whoever it is in that running backs room, they are going to be held to a high standard every day. And so I'm really, really excited about that hire. I don't think accountability is going to be as big of a hot topic conversation, at least not negatively like it was last year. He's a part of that.
I completely agree with that. Everything I've read about Bieniemy and how he's just dealt with other players in the past, like there is a certain type of style that he comes with. And, we've heard everything from the locker room at the end of last season. They want to enforce discipline, be coached hard. And I think he will bring that not only to the running backs room, but that's a guy who does have experience being an offensive coordinator. Like I think he, with his background, should be able to expand whatever feedback he has even more to just the running backs because of, again, where he's been, the stops that he's had, and the success that he's also had. And also, like, being a guy that, has, won Super Bowls, having a guy like Patrick Mahomes, like for Ben Johnson being a first-time head coach and obviously the play caller too, like you can tap into that knowledge that Bieniemy has. So I think it is a really good hire and how
he's a real voice in the room.
Yeah.
Like he's a real voice in the room. And, as the season went along last year for the Bears and after they, dismissed Eberflus as the head coach, you start to hear all these different rumblings from players, from coaches, even from Ryan Poles saying how, they noticed some mistakes in summertime and they didn't really bring them up or they walked. And that was interesting because what you often heard from Matt Eberflus was we don't walk past mistakes. We see mistakes, we correct them right there. And then you start to hear from all these coaches like, no, we were walking past a lot of mistakes and things. And Eric Bieniemy is going to be a voice in those rooms. He's going to be a voice in the coaches' meetings. He's going to be a voice in the locker room. He's going to be a voice out on the practice field. He's not going to walk past said mistakes. He's going to make sure that everything is addressed. And I think that so far from what I'm hearing from Ben Johnson, he does the same thing. And so I think you've accumulated a good staff of people who don't fear confrontation. And I know we heard Coach Thomas Brown talk about that when he took over as interim. It's about, addressing things as they are. These are not like children. These are grown men. They make a lot of money and they can handle a little accountability. They can handle a little heat from their coaches. In fact, they were asking for it last year. So the more the better on that.
Yeah, and I think also too, one last just thing on Bieniemy is that we saw how important the running back position was for Ben Johnson in Detroit. You see David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, how they made that Detroit Lions offense balanced. Like you didn't know whether to stop Jared Goff in the passing game or, on any given play, like is Jahmyr Gibbs going to, knock 20 on you in a big run. So I just think you need the proper coaching in that room to give Ben Johnson the playmakers he needs that are going to be able to run his offense the way he sees fit. And if that also means adding more players, like I meant, you mentioned Jeanty, we're actually going to get to that in a little bit, but like you just need to be able to get the most out of that group, and getting a guy like Bieniemy who does have a track record of one, just coaching, running backs and getting the most out of them, but being in that position group and being a former running back himself, like that I think is going to, pay dividends for that room and just give Ben Johnson what he needs to succeed for first time head coach, but also the play caller with the Bears. But Herb, you did mention Jeanty, and he is over there at Super Bowl Media Row and, making his stops everywhere. And, he was asked, paraphrasing here, but, looking at some of the picks in the top 10 and where he could fall. One of the teams he highlighted was the Chicago Bears and, being that 10th pick. And I know it was maybe a couple months ago, like he was on a live stream or something like that and was asked about the Bears and, didn't see that as potentially the best fit for him. He said it was cold in Chicago. It's also cold in, Idaho. Like, let's be real here. But he also mentioned they have Swift and things like that. But it seems like he's changed his view on the Bears. And I'm sure you are too, getting mentions like, hey, Jeanty wants to be a Bear, guys. Like, we see that. And I'm sure Herb, it has nothing to do with being in the top 10. You make a little bit more money.
Nothing about that.
Nothing about it, right? Like
he just wants to be a Bear so bad. Like,
oh yeah.
Listen, he wants to be a top 10 pick. I get it. Like the pay scale is different as a top 10 pick. And so good for him. Good for him and his agent and trying to, you know, build that thing up and say, let's get Jeanty in the top 10. And if it's to the Bears, then great. I don't see Jeanty becoming a Chicago Bear. And I know we've gotten a lot of questions about Jeanty. There was one question. I was just trying to find it. I don't know if you have it on your list, 'cause I can't find it on mine. But somebody asked a question about what style running back does Coach Johnson prefer? And I would simply say, look at what he did in Detroit. He prefers both, right? He prefers a guy who can, you know, pound the rock up the middle with great contact balance, like Demo did, like David Montgomery can do. But he also wants that home run hitter who can get outside and take it 80 in the way that Jahmyr Gibbs is always a threat to do. And so I think that's a good thing in terms of Coach Johnson being able to utilize different types of running backs. He doesn't just, I don't need just this type of guy or just that type of guy. I can utilize different skill sets differently. And so I think that's a benefit in terms of who fits into his scheme.
Yeah, no, so he doesn't pigeonhole Johnson and what he's looking for because, again, Montgomery and Gibbs are far different from each other. So I think that should be – it just leaves it very open for what the Bears may be looking for. But, look, you mentioned one of the questions here. I think this would actually be a good opportunity for us to get into the questions that were submitted by you, the watchers, listeners, and we appreciate
everything y'all dropping those too.
Yeah, man, it makes us think too, like, oh, okay, maybe didn't think about that, or that's a little bit out there, but that's fine. So let's see. We're gonna make this work seamlessly. It's gonna work so effortlessly. I'm gonna share my screen. We have the window open.
Everybody can see these questions.
Yep. So we're gonna share it right here. Oh, look at that. We're on the side. We have the rock saying, let's go. Let's see. Maybe we'll start with your tweet, Herb, and work our way backwards so that we can see what we got here. Okay, John Rivera, I saw this one, Herb. He said, I just wanted to say you were right about the 2024 offseason. I'll never forget it. Can you explain a little bit what is John referring to there?
Yeah, and I salute John for that, man, because you and I, John, are in a vast minority of people who thought that the Bears should have, kept Justin Fields around as the quarterback, acquired all of the additional assets that would have came from moving the highly coveted number one pick that turned into Caleb Williams. And I know that everybody, when this comes up, they want to make a apples to apples, 1-to-1 Justin to Caleb comparison. They want to tell me how Caleb's ceiling is higher than Justin's, and they want to tell me how Justin got benched in Pittsburgh, although that's not true. I just got done doing a hit on WGN radio with my good friend Kevin Powell. Shout out to KP. And he and I had a little bit of back and forth about that. He's like, how do you still feel that way? And I'm like, and he was saying that Justin got benched. I'm like, Justin didn't get benched. He filled in for the injured starter for 6 weeks, and when the starter came back, they gave him the spot back. And while he was filling in for 6 weeks, they went 4-2. So, I don't know what that means to you, but to me, that means winning football. And I look at what Jalen Hurts is doing out there in Philly, and people talk about, he's been throwing for 125 yards in the playoffs, and they're in the Super Bowl. Right? There's more than one way to win a game. And I thought that you could certainly be successful with Justin if you leaned into the things that he does well. Build a system around what he does. They had an opportunity to bring in Greg Roman as their offensive coordinator. He's now out in LA with the Chargers and Coach Harbaugh. But he's the type of guy that will build a system that allows you to run the football, use play action to set up the deep ball. And also there's a guy named Derrick Henry that was available last offseason, right? And so can you imagine Derrick Henry in the back? Sure, you can imagine it because the Ravens did it all doggone year long, right? Running read option with him and Lamar. You can do that same thing with Justin. You can get the tight end involved with Cole Kmet. You also wouldn't have an opportunity to trade back. You could have got Marvin Harrison Jr. You could have got one of those offensive tackles that came out, and you still would have had an additional 2 or 3 first-round picks going forward into 25 and 26. So to me, that just made the most sense. It was a safer bet than betting that Caleb Williams is Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that his ceiling isn't high. I believe in the player that Caleb Williams can grow to be. I don't believe that I wouldn't bet that he or anybody else was going to be Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is on the Mount Rushmore of all-time NFL quarterbacks. And to think that you're just going to predict somebody to be that is wild to me. It was wild to me last year. It's even more wild to me now, having watched what that season turned into. Right. He didn't make the type of splashes that people thought he was going to make. He wasn't able to overcome all of the issues that were around him with the Bears in terms of head coach, in terms of offensive coordinator, in terms of offensive line, all the turnover. Like you can't overcome those things in the same way that Justin couldn't overcome them. But everybody thought, oh, it's Justin's fault. Just swap him out for Caleb and all this will be fine. No, Caleb's going to get sacked 70 times. That's what's going to happen, right? And so, it is what it is. It's a thing of the past, but I do appreciate John Rivera just pointing that out, because I still think about it all the time, not even on some I told y'all type shit, but I'm a huge Bears fan. Right? I've been a Bears fan way longer than I've been a Bears reporter. I want the Bears to win. I thought that was the best way for them to get good quick. Obviously, Ryan Poles, who I got a lot of respect for, earned the right to make that decision. He chose differently. And now we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah, but man, I definitely thought, and I still believe that they should have went another way. And again, that has nothing to do with the player that I think Caleb Williams can be. It's just about, I thought that path was better than the one we're currently on.
I just think too, this all comes back to, I think what you highlighted too, as you were talking about this topic. It's like coaching matters, man. Like let's compare this to like what Jaden Daniels did with the Washington Commanders and Cliff Kingsbury. They leaned heavily into what Jaden did so well at LSU. The RPO game, using his legs, getting on the perimeter, throwing the deep ball. You saw all of that happen in Washington in his rookie season. And yes, right now, if you're asking a lot of people, they're saying they're taking Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. And again, I get why people are saying that, but when you see the coaching differences that happened in Chicago for Caleb's rookie season, when you're just essentially giving him the playbook that Geno Smith had and said, run this as a rookie, when this guy's been in the league since 2016, and Geno, it's like, that's not how you equate instant success for a young quarterback. That's just not how you do it. So again, it goes back. There's so many different factors as to, how these quarterbacks become who they are and ultimately who they will end up being. But again, that's why, Shane Waldron was fired, after that New England Patriots game. That's why they have Ben Johnson here, to get the best and most out of Caleb Williams. So I think we'll see how this all plays out, but yeah, it's so damn important.
Yeah, you got to get it right, man. I was really impressed and happy to hear Coach Johnson say, I'm not here to drop off the Lions playbook. I'm going to tear it down to the studs and build this thing around what Caleb and his teammates do well. And that's always a great thing to hear. I'm looking forward to it, man. I think that this offense could be pretty good if they're able to flip this whole line.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's go to Greg real quick. He says, was Bill Murray's out of nowhere excellent preseason and 1.5 regular season games performance fool's gold or fool's good, or could he be a viable option to compete with a day 2 drafted rookie on the offensive line? Herb, look, I don't think I thought about Bill Murray and potentially starting for the Bears offensive line in a very long time, and he should not be even in consideration right now of being one of the 5 offensive starters on that line to ensure that Caleb Williams survives next season going into year 2. So I get it. He had some flashes, but
he did.
I would leave it at that.
Yeah, man. Like bring him back and let him have spring and summer and go through his camp. But if you're trying to tell me that you want to like lean on that as the primary guard, or like, aren't we talking about Caleb trying to reach his full potential here? Isn't that the biggest thing that matters in terms of whether or not Ryan made the right decision or not? Like, we got to get everything around him that we need. And so I'm thinking Trey Smith. I'm not thinking Bill Murray. I'm thinking Will Campbell. I'm not thinking Bill Murray. No disrespect to Bill Murray, man. If he can get out there and compete with those guys and earn a spot, all the best to him. But you got to be thinking elite talent. That Eagles team is in the Super Bowl right now because they have elite talent up front. Sure, they got it outside. Sure, they got it in the backfield, but they've got it up front too, and you need those guys.
No doubt about it. We appreciate.
Shout out to you, Greg. I'm not. Yeah, shout out to you, Greg. Not tripping.
Yeah,
but
no. I mean, again, it gets this thing like, can you have somebody of lesser talent on there? I think where the Bears are at in this situation going into Caleb's second season, you just want premium talent there. We have Bob. Let's see. It would be great to ask Ryan Poles, how much did having to fire the coordinator in 2023 set the team or the franchise back? I think that was really unexpected and threw Eberflus for a loop in terms of having control of the team. I know it's old news at this point, but still, bear down. Appreciate the comment there, Bob. Not just a comment, just an observation from Bob. Not even a question. We appreciate everything.
That's fair. All that turmoil we talk about all the time, all the turmoil, all the turnover, position coaches, coordinators, all that matters, that leads and adds to the dysfunction. So I feel you on that. I'm not going to ask Ryan Post that because, as you mentioned, it's old news, but I feel you.
Nope, completely get it. We have Dante Purify. Would you take on Deshaun Watson's contract to lessen the compensation going back to Cleveland for Myles Garrett? That's an interesting way of going about. I mean, look, there's so many different ways that they can make it work. I come back to this, Herb. And a guy like Myles Garrett's going to take a lot to acquire him. And people think it's crazy that it could take multiple first-round draft picks. I don't think that's out of the question at all for a guy like that. Like
at all.
He's 2 years older than Khalil Mack was when the Bears traded for him, and you know what that took to get him.
Yeah.
You know, Myles Garrett is still in
that prime.
Yes, he's. I mean, he wants to obviously compete for a championship, go to a team that's going to give him that opportunity. But I think it would take still multiple picks. And what that ultimately do, yes, you get a guy like Garrett to line up opposite of Montez Sweat, which would be fantastic for Dennis Allen.
That would be nuts. That
would be nasty. It would be nasty. But what does that do in terms of your inventory to invest in the offensive line? What did you have to give up to get a guy like Garrett that now you can invest in your own line? And that's where it comes back to me, how I think of why the Bears ultimately won't make a trade for Garrett. But again, I love the possibility of what he could do on that defense.
No, that would be scary. I would certainly love to see that. I would love to see how a creative DC and attacking DC like Coach Allen would deploy those weapons on an offense. And so I'm with that, right? But it also is going to take a lot. You're talking about a guy that's in the prime of his career. You talk about the only person ever in the history of the league to have 14 or more sacks in 4 consecutive seasons. I think he's still got 4 or 5 years left in his prime. And I mean prime in terms of defensive player of the year caliber performance left in him. And so, I listen, if the Browns are going to move on from that, you're going to have to compensate them heavily. Now let me answer Dante's question. And shout out to Dante, man. I really rock with Dante in these Bears Twitter streets and have been for a while. Fuck no. No. Right? You cannot take on Deshaun Watson's contract. Right? You're going to have to pay Myles Garrett first. You got to pay that contract. You got to pay DJ his $100 million. You got to pay Montez his $100 million. You got to pay Jalen his $80 million. Hey, we're not printing it over here. Come on. No, I get it. I like you thinking outside the box, but I can't see that, bro. I can't see Ryan Poles we'll take on his ridiculous contract to put him on the bench behind Caleb. And then it's just another distraction for Caleb. What happens when Caleb goes out there and throws 3 picks in a game? People, put Deshaun out there. Let's see. That's the last thing he needs. No, that's no chance. No chance.
Again, Dante, we appreciate it. We're thinking of things that we probably have never entered our mind. And, now.
We outside the box.
Yeah,
Dante be on point. I really rock with Dante, but no doubt.
No doubt. Dante also has a follow-up or a second question here. How much does Caleb's athleticism factor into what Ben designs for this offense? And you know what? That's yet to be seen because we haven't seen Ben Johnson's offense with a quarterback like Caleb Williams. He's been with, obviously, Jared Goff, and completely different in terms of how the athleticism that both those guys kind of display and what they can do once they get outside the pocket. So we don't know what Ben Johnson can now do, knowing that he does have a quarterback like Caleb Williams. So I think, if anything, it opens up the possibilities and that creativeness that we've seen from Ben Johnson. I mean, just think of the last time the Detroit Lions were at Soldier Field and what they did with that stumble bumble play and, get the touchdown to Laporta. But it also, too, yes, you can maybe lean into that athleticism, that escapability from Caleb Williams, but you need Caleb to play from the pocket. Ben Johnson's offense operated really effectively because of the timing and accuracy from Jared Goff. He knew when to throw the ball, when the windows were there, and when to deliver a football to St. Brown, James Williams, those kind of guys. So Caleb does need to get that along with, everything else that comes with Ben Johnson, creating an offense that's going to be catered to, his new second-year quarterback.
Yeah, if you're going to build a system around Caleb and what he does, it behoove you to build in some things that take advantage of his athleticism. Get him out on the edge on some things. Get some, some RPO thing. Like let him be able to do some of those things because he has that in his skill set, and that should be fun. That should be exciting for Coach Johnson because, like you said, he didn't have that before. Jared Goff, for all the things that he does well, he does not move. He's a statuesque, tall pocket passer that can read the defense, get the ball out on time with accuracy, but he doesn't move at all. So, Caleb Williams offers you that, and you better use it. You better use it. So, absolutely, I think that's really, really cool. I think, Coach Johnson will definitely utilize Caleb's athleticism.
Yeah.
Shout out to y'all in the chat too. I see Crystal and y'all and Buka. I see y'all trying to come up with a name for this thing of ours, and I don't know. Y'all keep working on it, man. We've been thinking about it for a while. We've gotten a lot of suggestions. We haven't. Nothing that's hit us so hard that we was like, yeah, it got to be that. But I like Friday Blitz with Nick and Herb. I like Bears Cave, but I would like to try to stay away from like those, just like a bear name thing. There's a whole lot of that. Even though I do a Bear With Me segment interviewing the players. But yeah, I like that. Y'all keep working on it, man. We're going to come up with something.
My fiance, she was trying to think of some things too. So she's like, let me use ChatGPT. Some of the things that came up with that, I think there was actually like the Bear Cave with Nick and Herb. That was one of the things that actually came up.
Okay, dig that.
So I get it. But yeah, we'll keep brainstorming. Like you guys are, obviously submitting questions. Keep submitting different names that we could potentially use for this thing that we're doing here. And
for now, we'll keep calling it this thing of ours.
This thing with Nick. Every Friday.
While we laughing and having a good time, did you watch NFL Honors?
So I saw like bits and clips of it. But which one? What are you talking about here?
Coach Belichick wore all of his Super Bowl rings to NFL Honors. He wore all of them. He had 8 Super Bowl rings on, and his 24-year-old girlfriend, which is another thing. I say, hey, Belichick is wild, and he came to the NFL Honors to flex on all of y'all. Like, I know I'm going to college now, but I'm still that dude. I'm the standard. 8 of these joints. 8. One more than Tom Brady.
That's I mean, that is. I wonder if like his hands are kind of weighed down too. Like every handshake he has to give. Like, wait 1 sec. All these Super Bowl rings are weighing me down here. Like, insane. But a huge flex from Bill Belichick, and
huge flex. 2 as
it.
a DC with the Giants, 6 as the head coach with the Patriots. He was on stage with Coach Prime, and he had to hold his fingers up. Like, he couldn't just let his hands hang. He had to fold his fingers up like that because they probably would have just fell off at this point. But 8 Super Bowl rings. Coach Belichick came to flex on them people at NFL Honors.
Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl rings, having a 24-year-old girlfriend. Like, again, he's there having a good time, and good for him. And we'll see how.
Good for him, man. Hope he don't lose his girlfriend and none of his college players at North Carolina.
He probably slapped somebody with those 8 rings and probably wouldn't feel the greatest either.
For real.
Let's go to Invisible Night. What does Virginia's death mean for the team ownership structure and possible sell? Yes, for anybody, I'm sure every Bears fan knows this was just news yesterday. Virginia McCaskey passing away at 102 years old. That is, I mean, she's seen a lot in her lifetime. A lot. Like
everything.
In everything. Yeah, I'd say everything at this point. But it was, just it's weird how things kind of work. Because the last game that she saw was at, Lambeau Field, Bears winning on her 102nd birthday and winning on the last second field. Like it's almost like poetic in a way. And it's crazy how all things work. But to get back to Invisible Night's question, what does her death mean for the team ownership structure and possible sell? Like, I don't think it does much of anything, to be completely honest, in terms of the McCaskey's looking to sell the team or even wanting to sell the team now that she's no longer here. So I really just think that it's still not status quo, but it remains the same as it was before she passed. Like the McCaskeys, I don't think are interested in selling, even if the right price came, whatever it may be. But I don't think really much has changed after she has passed.
Yeah, no, rest in peace to her, and she's got a great legacy as an owner in this league and leading the Bears franchise for 4 decades before she stepped aside and put her sons in place. I don't think it changes anything. I think it's really, really cool that she was 102 years old and that the Bears won her last game and it was against the Packers at Lambeau. All the things you said, I think that's really, really cool. You hear oftentimes about like when people are on their way to transitioning and they hold out for that one visit, that one phone call, and then they get to talk to their children again or their spouse again. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to go. I think getting that last win at Lambeau was like that's a way to ride out into the sunset. And so certainly glad that happened for her. They were able to honor her at the NFL honors as well when they do their list of all the football people who passed away over the last year. And that's good on the NFL for getting that in because they only had like a day or so to do it. But yeah, I think that nothing changes. I think she hasn't really been in control of making these day-to-day decisions or even making the hiring decisions for a little while now. So I don't think anything changed, and I definitely don't think the McCaskies are going to be interested in selling the Bears. That is what they do. That is their business. They aren't a family who, got rich off oil or cheese or whatever and then decided to buy a football team as, a fun pet project. That is their family business. Papa Bear, George Hallis started this whole thing. And so I don't really see anything changing with that. I will say this about Ms. McCaskey, though. I can't remember exactly when this was. It wasn't this past season. It wasn't the 2024 season. But I do believe it was in the 2023 season, the last time I saw her. And she was getting around like just fine. She walked through Hallis Hall. She had a walker, but she was on her own with the walker, just getting around just fine. And always seemed very nice and sweet and polite. Rest in peace to Virginia McCaskey, but I don't think anything changes about the structure of the Bears organization. And I definitely don't think they're selling.
No. And, it was just, you saw all the NFL, like, Twitter accounts. They all posted something, about her. Every single team. And I know, like,
she got to. She's NFL royalty.
Yeah, exactly.
And
like,
not just because she's an owner. She's literally royalty.
Exactly. And like even Green Bay put something out there. I know some Bears fans like, oh, the only team that won't do it. No. This again, NFL royalty, you pay your respects and everybody.
You leave football, but you do the right thing when it's time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's get to this last question in these quote tweets here from Brian. Do you see any situation where the Bears use their 2 second-round picks to trade up for another first-round pick? What player would be worth this move? Will Campbell, Graham, and or Edge at 10, then Zabel late in the first? Man, Brian, like, again, it's all going to depend on who's available, what they're looking to go get, but like that's a lot of draft compensation to get maybe one guy, and then you obviously need to feel comfortable with who's left on the board. And if the Bears, and obviously at this point the Bears would have addressed some of those holes in free agency, so it would be an interesting move. I don't know how aggressive Ryan Poles and if Ian Cunningham's still here at this point when the draft is going on, how aggressive they're going to be with moving up in the draft. It doesn't also feel like it's as right now we're in, February 7th, it doesn't feel like a draft where people are looking to really move up and move a lot of draft compensation to get, some of these players here. So maybe as the process goes on, we, learn more about these prospects. The combine app obviously happens. We'll see if, stock rises for some of these guys, but as of now, I don't see them doing that. But dude, it's February 7th. Anything can change. And if the right players on the board and they haven't filled their needs in free agency that they believe they can get somewhere in the draft, then hey, Ryan Poles has been aggressive before. He probably would do it again.
Yeah, Nick, you are much, better suited for that particular question than I am because you do more work on the college guys than I do. I am not one of those reporters who's going to do background work on 1,000 prospects and the Bears get 5 or 6 of them. I'm just not doing it, me personally. So I kind of tend to wait and see. But also, to your last point, though, I wait until after free agency. That's going to give you a huge indicator of what they're going to do in the draft. Which of their holes are they able to fill via free agency? And then that'll give you the best, insight into what may be coming in the draft. But in general, just on the surface of your question, I don't see the Bears leveraging those 2 second-round picks to go up and get a guy in the first round. Now, if some guy happens to slide down the board that they maybe thought, maybe we would even consider him at 10, or, if we move back to maybe 15, we'd have considered him there, and now he's sitting there at, 27, 28. And I don't know if that costs you both of your second-round picks. So I don't know, but I don't really see a scenario where the Bears are going to leverage both of those second-round picks to go up and get an additional pick in the first round. I think there's going to be a lot of good players there for them on day 2 in that second round in terms of, filling in on the trenches on either side of the ball. And so I think those picks are too valuable, in my opinion, for them to kind of jump up and go get one guy. I don't think they're at that point of their process of building this team. I kind of feel the same way about Myles Garrett, right? I feel the same way about Jeanty. Yeah. Jeanty would be a luxury pick if they were like right there. And I was like, we got everything else and we can afford to go running back here. Myles Garrett, a little different because he can just change the whole thing himself, right? Just coming in. But I think that's a luxury thing to say, okay, we were right there. Let's go. We think we can win this thing this year, right? And I don't know that's where they are. So I don't see them doing that, but it's definitely a reasonable question.
Yeah, no doubt. And, obviously as we get further in this process, more and more that we learn about some of these draft prospects, then maybe the answer changes for me here about what the Bears could possibly do in terms of draft capital and what they're willing to move up for. Let's go to next question here. We have Matt Sharp. Coaches often bring previous players with them through free agency. Which Lions and Saints free agent, recent or past, do you think the Bears will target to help Johnson and Allen bring things along? Have any guys in mind there, Herb, about either? I mean, there are a couple of guys I was thinking of for, obviously both teams, especially when it comes to Dennis Allen getting some guys, maybe on defensive line or even the offensive line or even just offensive weapons for Ben Johnson. But does anybody come to mind for you for Matt's question here?
Yeah. And I got to give a shout out to Brad Biggs from the Tribune. I was listening to him on the score this morning. Tim Patrick, receiver from the Lions, veteran guy, had some tough luck with injuries in 22 and 23. I think he did an Achilles and then did an ACL, but he bounced back this year and was very effective for them, especially late in the season. He's a bigger target, a threat in the red zone, and he knows what Ben Johnson is trying to build. He's a veteran receiver that could come in and fit in. I know, we've heard other guys mention, Cooper Kupp or, some people talk about T. Higgins, and I don't see none of that stuff really, really happening. But a guy like Tim Patrick that you can come in and kind of drop into this mix that can help the other receivers kind of get acclimated to, what Coach Randall and Coach Johnson want to get done here, I think that could make a lot of sense. And so he's certainly one guy that it wouldn't surprise me if he came over. And when I heard Biggs mention that name, I'm like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does, because I think, most likely Keenan Allen's not going to be a part of this team in 2025. It just seems like that's going to be the direction that the Bears go. Keenan Allen ultimately decide on. So you do need to add another wide receiver, and you do have a guy like Tyler Scott who does have a speed element, but he was
I'm like Tyler Scott. I'm not done with him.
Neither am I, because when you think about how Ben Johnson was using, again, Jameson Williams, a completely different player, but they do have that in common, that speed element where he can stretch a defense vertically. So I think for Ben, he can find ways to get Tyler Scott onto the field, and he would have to, contribute on special teams as well, being that later option in the receiver room. But yeah, I wouldn't rule out him, but I do think another wide receiver makes sense. I also think it would make sense for, let's say you can't add Trey Smith. Like you lose out on him. He might not even hit free agency. The Chiefs are like,
right, let's start there, right?
Yeah, you got to start there. I was watching some tape of him, Herb, yesterday and this morning. Dude he's good, man. He is so damn good. Physical. He's finishing blocks. He's getting in linebackers' faces after he's shoving them 5 yards out of the play and just kind of talking to them a little bit. Then he's also little subtle things, like when his teammates are on the ground, let me help you up. Little things like that, just seeing him and how he's really just established himself as one of the best guards in the NFL going into a big free agency possible season in 2025. Like that makes him this coveted player that you would love to have on your team. So if the Bears don't get that, which again, we'll see what ends up happening.
He's grown up in the championship culture too, man.
Yes.
Like you talk about all those little things. He's grown up in the championship culture. He knows what it looks like. He knows what it feels like, what it sounds like, communication, all that. He understands it. And that would be just as much a welcome addition off the field as everything that he brings on the field. I'm actually going to pray for that guy come Sunday that he stays healthy. That just hit my spirit right now to make sure he gets through that game healthy, because he's standing at a huge payday, whether it's Chicago or somewhere else. I'm not even talking about from a Bears perspective, just from that young man's perspective. He gets through that game healthy, and he's got generational wealth that could change, a lot for him and his family. And I want him to get through that game healthy, man.
Yeah, and selfishly, I just want him to. Well, I don't know. I want him to have a great game, but also it's like, man, just give the Chiefs a reason why you can't hold on to a guy like that. But
what about him and Jalen Carter going at it all Sunday?
That is, I don't know. Bears fans are going to be a little, like they're in their feeling. I don't know what it's going to be exactly, because Jalen Carter's been wrecking the people this entire season, and yes, the Bears. Move on. Didn't factor him being a player that they could maybe draft here in Chicago, and went with Darnell Wright. But that's going to be the matchup. That's going to be a fun one to watch all game long. And I think whoever gets the better of that, maybe the team that ends up winning. But to go to my guy really quickly, that former on the Lions, that maybe could be a possibility. You lose out on Trey Smith, Kevin Zeitler, 34. I mean, he's a little bit older now. Guard from the Detroit Lions, played right guard, over 1,000 snaps there. Like, could that be, just a stopgap guy for at least this 2025 season? Someone that ran the offense, knows exactly what Ben Johnson's looking for in that system. I mean, could be someone that you can rely on going into at least this season, given his age. But, obviously being someone that was available, which you can't say the same for a lot of the Bears offensive linemen. Are they even going to be out there active on game days because they're not dealing with an injury? Kevin Zeitler's been somebody that I think Ben Johnson, Jared Goff could count on. So that's somebody that came to mind as I was thinking about this question, Matt, but also someone from a previous stop that Dennis Allen worked with and has not lived up to his draft status of years past. But a guy like Chase Young would fit what I think Dennis Allen was looking for in the body type. Like I said, has not been the guy that was drafted, in the first round, and has dealt with some injuries, things like that, and has bounced around a few teams. But could that be somebody that you can line up opposite of?
Put him back with Montez.
Yeah. So again, it makes sense. You have familiar. If Dennis Allen saw him in a positive light there when they overlapped in New Orleans, and you want to bring a guy that, I'm just looking at PFF right now. Their projected contract, 2 years, $17.5 million average, $20 million guaranteed.
That's lightweight.
Lightweight. I think you can add somebody like that. It does help the defensive line, and just gives you a little bit more options, honestly, when you're looking at guys that can rush the quarterback, stop the run. Chase Young, definitely a guy that I think maybe could be a factor for the Bears as they're looking at guys from previous teams that they can bring to this Chicago Bears team.
That's a great question from Matt, first of all, but I want to go back to you mentioning Zeitler, because I think that can make a whole lot of sense. I think that the Bears, there's a real possibility that they're going to have 2 rookie O-linemen, right, starting in this group. That's a real possibility. Now, maybe they end up getting 2 vets, and that's not the case, or maybe even they do, that still could be the case. But I think if you go into a situation where you're talking about having, maybe a rookie guard and a rookie center, then having Zeitler there to kind of settle down that interior and bring those guys along, understanding the system, like, I think that could be really, really important. And so I like what you're thinking there. I damn near want that to happen at this point. Even if you get Trey, like, get him for the other one, and then you can draft, another guard and a center. But I think having that veteran presence would really help to settle things down. So I like the way you're thinking on that one, for real.
Yeah, I think you can never have too many capable offensive linemen. You really can't.
No.
Someone's going to go down at some point, and just knowing that when one guy misses time or you have to maybe fluctuate the offense line, you have somebody that you can trust in there. I think that's going to be a big thing for Caleb Williams going into year 2 is like, do I have people up front I can trust? And if I can trust those guys, can I operate the offense the best of, his ability? So yeah, just some names, and I'm sure there'll be more as we continue to dive and see like who's going to hit free agency and, who can, obviously we know the holes on this team right now, but definitely more people in mind there too. We have, where are we at here? I'm looking at the screen. Eric Bochannon. If you can only sign one of the two, which would you sign? Drew Dalman from the Atlanta Falcons, a center, or the guy that we were just talking about who is amazing, Trey Smith. For you, Herb, is there a preference?
Yeah, man, give me Trey. I just want the better player. Nothing against Drew. I'd love to have them both, but if you could, if you're giving me a choice and I can only choose one, yeah, give me Trey for sure. You put him, like, I think he can play either guard spot. Like,
yeah.
So you put him next to Darnell, that becomes a huge problem for anybody to deal with in talking about having the strength on that right side. So, yeah, I love him. I love them both, Bochan. But if you made me choose, I'd take the better player in Trey Smith.
I would do the same thing, but I really do like the idea, Herb, of having a veteran center. And I think that's going to be an interesting discussion for the Bears as they look how to address and upgrade that position. Do you go and draft somebody and then have a year 1 center with a year 2 Caleb Williams? And, maybe the long term, that's the best route for them. But right now, going into this first season with Ben Johnson as your head coach, play caller, like, I do like the idea of having just somebody from a center position that's seen things from defenses that, Caleb hasn't still experienced yet in his rookie season. So it would make sense for me to go get somebody like that. And, I guess they did do that with Coleman Shelton, but it's like
but they did
have an experience. Yeah, exactly. Like you have an experienced center, but it's somebody that is lesser caliber, right? So like how much of a plus was that when you look at it? And we all saw how it all ended up for Coleman Shelton. There was just too many of those plays where you're like, damn, like this guy's getting walked back right into Caleb's lap on skates. Exactly. Like you can't have your low lights be that egregious where, even though like most of the time, did he block the guy in front of him? I wouldn't say that now, but yeah, those low lights were low.
You got to start setting the standard high. You got to start setting the standard for, can we build a Super Bowl contender? And we are gonna watch the game. We know who those defensive tackles are. We just talked about Jalen Carter. We know who. Why am I drawing a blank right now? Who's the Chiefs D tackle? What's his name?
Oh, Chris Jones.
Chris Jones, right? We know who those 2 D tackles are. Now you got to ask yourself, can my center stand up if he ends up one-on-one with either of those guys? Can he manage that? And I'm not saying you want that all game with any center, because those 2 dudes are who they are for a reason. But in a pinch, could he hold up for 2.5 seconds? I don't know. You know what I mean? You gotta be able to answer that question with a little bit of confidence. So yeah, no, get you somebody who can do it.
I completely agree with that. Get you somebody that can do it. That should be like when the Bears are just looking at like how
somebody who can do it. That's gonna be my answer from now on.
Yeah,
and from now through free agency, through the draft, every time like Herb, who should get you somebody who can do it? Get you somebody who can do it, man.
I completely understand what you're saying too. Like, get you someone that can do it. Easy as that. Sometimes I think we overcomplicate, how we evaluate some of these players. Michael Race, is that Michael?
Yeah, I think so. Michael Iris.
Iris, that could be.
Iris?
I think I like
Iris.
Iris. Michael. Okay, Michael.
Michael for sure.
Michael, we got that one. Get you someone that can do it. Michael is how you do it. Besides Trey Smith and Drew Dalman, who are some other O-line free agents that are possible for the Bears? Well, I'd love to get the top free agents. That's not always the case with the Bears. Let's brace for plan B, C. Oh God, don't get to D. I'm looking at, PFF.
Because Nick is so good at what he does, he's already giving you one very viable option.
True.
Talking about Zyler in the conversation. So Yeah, let's not get to Plan D though. That's
that's Coleman Shelton. That's Coleman Shelton Plan D.
That's
right?
Coleman Shelton.
You don't want to get
Mike,
there. And
you could tell Michael is a real Bears fan because he knows that Plan D is always a possibility.
He's been through it. He knows. Okay, just looking at the guard position and looking at PFF, who they have available. After Trey Smith, you have Will Fries from the Indianapolis Colts, a 4-year, again, their contract projection, 4 years, $14.3 million. To be completely honest, don't know a lot about Fries, how he plays, or, how that would be a fit. The next guy, though, Herb, we're very familiar with him. Tevin Jenkins. Tevin Jenkins is on there. 3 years, $13.33 million, $24 million guaranteed. Like, if Tevin could just, if Tevin can stay healthy, he would be easily a factor for this team in 2025 and probably would have
be one less hole we need.
Yeah, because when he is healthy, he's a baller. Like, he's somebody that will bring that physical presence, somebody that will protect his quarterback. You like what Tevin Jenkins can do when he's on the football field. But also the biggest problem is the when.
Get you somebody that can do it, Nick. Can he play 15, 16 games? Like, get you somebody that can do it. Yep. And I love Tevin when he's healthy. I love him as a person and somebody to talk to. Mm-hmm. I remember coming into the season, he was saying, that he and the Bears were going to table the extension talks until after the bye, just seeing how his health and his performance was. And he couldn't make it through in terms of having a stretch of games with dominant play without being injured. And it's just unfortunate, man, because he's really, really talented. He's got the size, the strength. He's got the right attitude. He's a finisher. He's nasty. He's a good teammate. He's very smart. That's what I think people underrate about his game. Every time I've ever asked any of his teammates, all of them, to a man, have said the best thing about Tevin is his communication and how smart he is and how he helps them identify things on the offensive line. And you have that combination with his physicality. You got a really, really good football player. But the best ability, as we all know, is availability. And he just hasn't shown that enough. I wouldn't be mad if he came back, but that would have to be, a 1 year, maybe $10 million type of dollar deal. And even then you got to have some insurance in place with, some other guys, some other players that you feel good about, whether they be rookies or whatever, because you just can't depend on it. And that's it's unfortunate. And it's not like you can't depend on him in the way that you can't depend on Nate Davis. Completely different type of dependability, but it still is about, can I depend on you? And like I said, as much as I like Tevin, if I'm answering it truthfully, I can't depend on that he's going to play 15, 16 games for you.
Yeah, I can almost not guarantee, maybe that's too strong a word, but you can almost guarantee he's not going to be, available for.
I would bet that before I bet that he would.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just some options there, but we have one more question here, Herb, and it's from Sir Stony Island. Which college running back?
Stony Island. Stony Island. Over East, man. I see. So I live right off Stony Island. I'm from South Side over East. Stony Island is the main road through the South Side, especially over East in Chicago. So if that's what he's talking about, shout out to him, man, for being from over East.
Hey, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, people love their Herb Howard, and they know, want to be.
Let's go, man.
Exactly.
It's different over here. Shout out to that. But I'm sorry, I had to give him some love from being from around the way first.
Absolutely. He asked Sir Stony Island, which college running back best fits Johnson's offense? I think we were alluding to this. Like, it could be whatever style you're kind of looking for. Like, Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs are completely different football players.
Completely different backs.
But they both worked really well with Ben Johnson, what he was doing.
Very productive.
So, which college running backs? Like, when I was in the Senior Bowl, I can see a guy from Delaware, Michael Yarns, who was out there running routes like a receiver, winning one-on-one matchups. Like, hey, that fits a Jahmyr Gibbs kind of mold that you're kind of looking for. Man, I know that just seeing clips from, gosh, why am I blanking on his name? But the Ohio State's running backs, both guys.
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them can be, I think, options for Ben Johnson, what he wants to do and, his offense. But you don't got to try to
hide your bias, Nick. I know you love the kid from Iowa. You don't got to try to hide your bias, Nick. I know you love the Hawkeye.
Look, to be fair, Caleb Johnson, the running back from Iowa, he was the offense. So it's like when you're looking at like why that team was even relevant sometimes. Actually, there are times they scored a little bit more than expected, but he could be a very capable pass catcher at the backfield, but he can easily gash you and on the ground. And you're just thinking about Ben Johnson. What I think he wants versatility. Guys that can
give you both. They go Bo Chan in the chat saying the same thing. Come on, Nick. We know you like your Hawkeyes. Don't front.
No, yeah, no. I do. The thing is, like, they frustrate me so much. I know what I'm going. I know what I'm going into every single game. I know exactly. But Caleb Johnson, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense for what the Bears. If Ben Johnson,
where do you think he's going? Like where about?
I feel like he would be a day 2 guy.
Okay.
Like somewhere, yeah, second
or third, early third.
He has the production. I mean, in terms of what he did at Iowa, over 20 touchdowns, a bunch of yards on the ground. But
I'm not mad at that. Like, if they can plug 2 O-line holes in free agency, and then they plug one at 10, or they plug one at 41, and those 3 picks, those top 3 picks. If one is an offensive lineman and one is a defensive lineman, the other can certainly be a running back, especially if they fill 2 of the other in free agency. Now, whether that's O-line, D-line, whatever, but they fill 2 of them in free agency, and then they use 2 of the top 3 on the trenches again, then the other one can certainly be a running back. No issue there. And if he's there around that range, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think, too, it all depends on how Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles feel about that group. Like, we didn't for Roschon Johnson dealing with that concussion. I think that took him out of his rhythm too. And does a guy like Eric Bieniemy get a lot more out of DeAndre Swift and what we even saw? We saw flashes. We saw flashes too from DeAndre when he made a bunch of explosive plays for the Bears, but running between the tackles, inconsistent, I would say at best. So, a guy like Caleb Johnson, who ran for 1,537 yards, 21 rushing touchdowns, seems pretty good of what you could add if you don't feel comfortable with the guys that you currently have in your group right now.
Yeah, I think you could do a lot worse than a plan like that. I'm not as down on DeAndre Swift as some people, were throughout the season and have been so far this offseason. I think he has a very unique skill set that a good offensive mind should be able to utilize. And so, use it, man. Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? I was talking to Jalen Johnson yesterday, actually, and just talking about being able to deploy these weapons that the Bears have. They have so many good players. They got playmakers. Put them in position to make plays. How about DJ Moore is able to run something other than the screen route? How about you scheme up Cole Kmet to get open other than the one play y'all did in London, right? Like utilize these things. You got DeAndre Swift, let him get out in space, create some mismatches where he's one-on-one with the linebacker, let him run a quick, arrow type route. Like, let him do these types of things. And same thing on defense, man. If you got Jalen Johnson, because you have PS2, Patrick Surtain just won Defensive Player of the Year. It's so rare for a corner to win that. So that's how I ended up talking to Jalen. I was like, man, they just gave Defensive Player of the Year to a corner. Like, you can go win that joint now. Like, but he got to be able to travel and they got to be able to win games. That's what he was like. He's like, got to be able to win, right? So, like, all of that matters, man. So, let him travel with the number 1 target for the offense. Kyler Gordon can do everything for you on defense. He can do anything you want him to do on defense. He can do it. Let that man loose. Let's go. Move Montez up and down that line. Like, start to deploy your people as weapons and not be so reactive to what the other team is doing. Be attacking. Be aggressive. And that's what I saw from Ben Johnson as an offensive coordinator. I would love to see the same thing from him as a head coach and the same thing with Coach Allen on the defensive side of the ball.
No, that's a really good point. You got to be the aggressor, especially as a defense. And I think
football,
Dennis
man.
Allen, yeah, you have to. You got to be the one that you make the offense have to, adjust to what you're doing. And I think if Dennis Allen sees that he has the right people fit to do that, he's going to do it. And I think it was Jalen was on a podcast recently. I think it was with Keyshawn Johnson. He asked about the traveling question.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's like, are you up? Or he's like, next question. Like,
All right,
Dude,
don't play with me, man. Like
Jalen's so down for doing that and like
he's
shadowing
been
whoever
wanting
it
to do
is.
that. He's been
Yes.
wanting to do that. I remember talking to him and Tyreek one day in the locker room last season, and I was like, man, like, would y'all be cool if they brought more pressure packages? And they were both like, hell yeah, like bring it, make the ball come out quick, right? He was like, now if you're gonna bring it, get home, right? Don't bring it
Yeah.
and then don't get home and then just have us on the back end, for 4 or 5 seconds and man coverage across the board. But bring it and we can cover for 2 or 3 seconds, no problem. And that's Tyreek and Jalen. Like we get our hands on them early and we can anticipate the ball coming out quick. They welcome that type of challenge. And so, I think Coach Allen is going to be impressed with their competitive spirit, their competitive nature, but also the physicality that they offer in terms of getting their hands on guys early in the down and allowing him to send Kyler, allowing him to send TJ, allowing him to send, God willing, Jaquan, right? Like do those types of things to dictate to the offense. This is football, man. We talking about two grown men fighting for one piece of land on the field. Both of us can't be here, bro. One of us has to move, right? You want this spot, I want this spot. We cannot both be here. Either you gonna move or I'm gonna move. It damn sure ain't gonna be me. So get your ass out of my way because I need to go over here. That's just what football is. If you talk about a tackle and a DN, a receiver and a corner, a line, like there's one plot of land right here. We both need it. We both need it. Mm-hmm. You need to open up this hole and get me out of this gap. I need to hold this gap so nobody can come through here. One of us got to move. One of us got to move. Damn it, get out of my way.
And that's why we love football so damn much because that's what it comes down to. Simple things like that. Just simple,
you can complicate all you want. X's and O's, and you can drop all the formations and schemes and motions. You can do all that. At the end of the day, you got two men fighting for a plot of land. We both cannot be here.
Whoever wants it more. And I think that's what shows in these two teams that are playing right here on Sunday.
I don't know how much of the Hard Knocks AFC North thing that you watched during the season, but it was really good. But my favorite part of it was the Steelers were about to play the Ravens. And Coach Tomlin is in the meeting, and he's talking to TJ Watt. And he tells TJ, and he's got Lamar Jackson up on the board. And he tells TJ Watt, he says, listen, man, your Hall of Fame agenda cannot coexist with his Hall of Fame agenda. Something got to give. It can't be both, right? Either he going to go out there and show out or you going to go out there and show out. Your Hall of Fame agenda cannot coexist with his Hall of Fame agenda. That's football, man. You got to love that shit. And then you got to go say, no.
Simple as that. And, listening to Mike Tomlin in that HBO Hard Knocks, like, dude, I could see why, like, his players love him. It's inspiring, but it's simple things like that. Like, I think when you think about it, it's a simple message. Like, now we both can't, like, he can't go out there and dominate, but how are you also going to be a Hall of Fame player? Like, he gets it. And that's why, he's done what he's done for as long as he's done it. Like, Mike Tomlin's a hell of a coach. So no, I did really enjoy watching that. It was much more entertaining, I believe, than what the Bears had in Hard Knocks in the training.
That was the worst Hard Knocks I've seen since Hard Knocks came out. The best one I've seen was the Giants offseason thing. That was just amazing. That was a peek behind the curtain that I'd never expected to see. And I don't know if they're going to do it again because they exposed the Giants and they exposed their GM making some decisions. Everybody. And now you see Saquon, in the Super Bowl and in the MVP conversation and all. It's like, I don't know if they're going to give us that much access to what goes on in the offseason again. But that one was really good. That was probably the best one I've seen since like the Ravens original one with Saragusa and Shannon Sharp and them. Like,
I remember
that was a different one right there. So I really enjoyed that one, but the Bears thing was definitely the worst one I've seen, whether it's in season, postseason, off season, whatever season. That was the worst one. It was blah.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot there. Even in the Giants one, Joe Shane, like his kid was saying, you should go draft Jada Daniels. And it's like, damn, like your kid was onto something, man. Like there's a bunch of things are being exposed there.
They gave Danny Dimes $40 million, and he didn't even finish the season there. And got rid of Saquon in the process. Like, oh my God!
I feel for those Giants fans because it's rough over there. Herb, this has been, I mean, we've been going on for an hour now. It's been awesome talking to you. But before we head out, I mean, we got a super chat here from someone that we're very familiar with. Very familiar with. Appreciate you, Crystal. 1999 super chat.
Crystal.
So I missed last week. Not sure if you guys have had a super, but it wouldn't be me if I didn't bless you all with a super. Love both of you guys and the coverage you bring us. Nick, share $1 or $2 with Herb. Always bear down. Crystal, you're amazing. You are the best. I appreciate the support. We love you here, and it wouldn't be like a Bears podcast if Crystal didn't pop in with the super chat. It just makes too much sense.
It's only fitting that Crystal comes through with the super chat, and you missed last week or whatever. This was the first one, and shout out to you. This was the first super, and we are more than appreciative and grateful for that. Thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you so much for just being a real diehard Bears fan that really, lives and dies with this team. I've seen Crystal out at Soldier Field by herself, sitting through the rain and the snow, and she's a real one. But we certainly appreciate the love and support. Thank you so much for coming through with the super chat, and as always, giving me a little hard time per usual. Always talking stuff about to me on some way or another, but it's cool.
Again, it wouldn't be Crystal if she wasn't doing that. That's consistent. Why it makes her great. Consistent. Very consistent. But
dependable. Tevin Jenkins.
There we go. See, you can learn a thing or two. But hey, no, appreciate everybody else too who's been in the chat, interacting, leaving comments. Everybody that left us questions for today's episode. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have people like you. Or actually, we would still be talking Bears football. But we appreciate you joining us on your Friday afternoon. And again, we still need names though. So maybe after this finishes up and records and we put it out there everywhere, put some name suggestions. I mean, we saw some earlier. We're still working out. We're going through the process of things.
We're liking it. We're liking it. Keep it coming. Man.
Yep. We always appreciate it. But Herb, I'm gonna let you get to your rest of your weekend. I hope you actually, before we let you go, what did you end up doing with the bet? Is it done?
I still got it.
What's happening?
I still got it. I'm still holding on to it. And so I'll tell you what I told KP when I was on with him a little while ago. I said, it's so hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes because if he gets the ball last, you are smoked. So I said, I'm going to hang on to it. But if Patrick Mahomes gets the ball with under 2 minutes to go, I am going to smash the cash out button as quickly as possible. Because they'll probably take it down to 0 just when he gets the ball with a chance to win.
Dude, man,
if it starts to look like that, I'm going to smash that button as quickly as possible, man. I had this bet since September 5th, picking the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I want to stick through. I want to see it through, but I also don't want to lose to Patrick Mahomes. And you'd be full. I saw something. I heard something. He's 7 of 7. Yeah, if it hits for sure, Crystal, drinks on me for sure. if it hits for sure, drinks on me. But I saw something. He's 7 for 7 in situations where you're talking about getting the ball and going down to either take the lead or tie in the playoffs. In his career, 7 of 7. I think Tom Brady was like 7 of 13 or something like that, and then the entirety of everybody else was like low, you know what I mean? It's crazy. That dude has never failed in that situation in the playoffs. When I'm talking about regular season, Joe Burrow's beat him before, and Josh Allen's beat him a few times. I think Josh Allen's like 3-0, 4-0 against him, 3-1, something like that in the regular season. But postseason, no, missed me with that. So that dude is different, man. That dude is absolutely different in the playoffs when it matters the most. He gets the ball late in the games and he delivers.
That's why it's so imperative that the Eagles go up and they just keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, because if it's close,
Saquon.
Yeah, Saquon's got to be huge in this one.
You got to keep Pat on the sideline. Just keep Pat on the sideline and dominate time of possession. Go on some of those 80-yard, 9-minute drives that finish in the end zone, and that's their road to success on Sunday. I believe they can do it. doing it is a completely different situation. And by all means, do not give 15 the ball last.
Give it, yeah. I think we all know what the outcome will be. Like he's again 7-7. Like he's proven himself, and you almost expect it at that point. And again, you'll be on your phone cashing out as soon as like something happens.
Immediately, like as soon as the Eagles like have to like punt on that previous possession. As soon as I see them run the punt team out there, cash out, cash out.
Please let me cash out.
Or even if they hit a field goal or score a touchdown and go up like 4 or 5, and it's still like 90 seconds left or 13 seconds left. We've seen him do 13 seconds. He did them people like
that's just disrespectful. That's ridiculous, man. He's ridiculous. But I wish you nothing but the best, Herb. I hope everything works out in your favor there. I hope we all enjoy one last football game of the 2024 season. Cap it off with something that we'll all remember. Just wish that football is back as we usually do when the Super Bowl ends. But hey, man, this has been a blast. Like our Friday shows have been fun. Yeah,
like I'm loving it. I'm loving it, man. So this is great. Shout out to you, man, for being you. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to everybody. Listen, make sure y'all evaluate y'all own lives, y'all own personal lives, and as you evaluating what's going on, just get you somebody that can do it. Whatever that is, like get you somebody that can do it, man.
I love that. It's going to be the message for whatever the name ends up becoming for what this is. Get you someone that can do it. All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy the Super Bowl, but we'll catch you next week. Until next time, adios.